welcome back to another YouTube video, and in this video we're going to be having a little bit of a look at Braille, how you can learn Braille, and this is mainly aimed at people who might be working with someone who has a visual impairment rather than someone who has a visual impairment themselves. So hopefully you can pick up some ideas from this, start to learn Braille yourself, and then pass that information on to others. So what is Braille? You've probably come across Braille even if you've not necessarily paid much attention to it. Certainly on sort of things like medicine packets, paracetamol tablets, that sort of thing, you will notice there's Braille, which is just a series of bumps on the side of the packet. And Braille is a tactile reading and writing system for the blind, based around groupings of 6 dots. Now, back in the sort of late 18th century, there was a man called Charles Barbier who wanted his soldiers to sort of be safe. So rather than having to light lamps to read instructions and things, he wanted to create some sort of system that they could read in the dark, so they wouldn't draw attention to themselves. So he invented something called night writing. Now, night writing was quite different from Braille as we know it today, but it was along, similar sort of idea, the sort of tactile idea that you could read with your hand. It didn't take off, unfortunately. It wasn't really adopted, but the idea was a good one. But Charles Barbier's system was quite different. It was based on around sort of 36 sounds rather than individual letters and words. And so he met up with Louis Braille in 1821 and showed him his system, and then Louis Braille, over several years, came up with what we know today as Braille, and obviously it's evolved considerably over the years. Previously there's been sort of standard English Braille in this country, and now there's more of it's called Unified English Braille, which is the sort of more sort of universally recognised system, if you like. Obviously it does vary between different countries, and some people you might be using slightly different systems to others, but on the whole it's kind of like the unified English Braille, as it's called, really. Louis Braille, unfortunately, when he was 3 years old, had an accident with an awl, which is like a tool for poking holes into sort of leather in his father's workshop, and caused his eyes some damage. And unfortunately, it led to an infection, which made him go blind in both his eyes. And so he ended up enrolling in the Royal Institute for Blind Youth in Paris when he was young, and sort of found the teachers there just sort of tended to talk at the students, and they didn't necessarily learn as much as they could have done. And so when Charles Barbier came along and showed him this system that he'd been working on, Louis Braille sort of jumped on that idea and thought, hey, this is a great idea. Well, we can work on this. And unfortunately, the year after he died, Braille was then adopted. Well, not unfortunately, but shame you didn't get around to see it, is what I mean. It was adopted as sort of the main sort of reading and writing language for the blind, just in the year after he died, passed away. So Braille really is it's quite a complex system. It can be fairly straightforward, depending on there's two sort of main levels of Braille, if you like. There's uncontracted and contracted Braille. Uncontracted Braille is the sort of the one you'll see out and about a lot more, because it's it's like the grade 1 and grade 2 Braille, basically. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a moment. But how would you go about learning Braille? Obviously, I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm a teaching assistant, and and my place of work, a retired teacher who's a bit of an expert in Braille, comes in every single Monday voluntarily. She's well into her 80s, but she comes in and gives Braille lessons. So for about a year and a half, I was doing those Braille lessons. I've gone through everything now, so don't do those anymore. But she still comes in and sees some of the other stuff. So yeah, ideally, if you've got someone that can teach you Braille, that is the best route to go down. But if you want to make a start yourself, or you haven't got anybody that can show you how to do it, there are some different options. So as I say, I work for a sensory support service, and so I was lucky enough to have someone come and teach me Braille, and we also have sort of various different equipment for writing Braille as well. So I'm just going to show you a couple of different things that you might want to use. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to quickly show you is this. So just bear with me a second. So I've got my phone camera up here, so you can see what I'm talking about. Now this is called a Perkins Braille. So I'm just going to try and get the angle correct. And it's basically a typewriter for writing in Braille. So Braille, like I said, is based on 6 different dots. So you've got 1, 2, 3 on this side, so it's reversed for the on the camera, unfortunately. So you have to sort of think of it the other way around, and 4, 5, 6 on this side. And then it's just a piece of thin card that goes in the top, and this is a bit of a specific size of card, but you can put A4 card in there if you want to. And then you can just type away. So I'm just going to balance my phone somewhere for a second while I try and show you that. Oops, so I'll just pop it over there for a moment, so you'll have to bear with me. So I can just start typing on there, very much like a typewriter. And then it stamps out, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but it stamps out the Braille on the card there. So, as I say, I work for a support service. I'm lucky enough to sort of have hold on one of these from that service while we're in lockdown. Obviously, it's difficult to get hold of these things. Otherwise, I do tend to Braille some work for a couple of people I work with, and some letters and things as well while we're stuck at home. So that's really useful. So yeah, so that's just the Perkins Braille. So if you're lucky enough to have access to something like that, then that's a really good way to practice your Braille. Okay, so when I first, well, just before I started working in the job I'm in now, I'd not previously worked that much with visual impairment, and just to get myself started before I was able to start my job, I decided that I would try and learn a bit of Braille myself. Now, there are various different apps and things out there that you can use. One that I particularly liked was this one here called Braille Tutor. Now, I've only just installed it on this particular phone, so not everything's unlocked on there at the moment, unfortunately. So see, they've got lock icons on the challenge and the translation ones there. Just going to turn the music down a little bit on that. And this is basically a little app that lets you sort of see what the different Braille letters are to start with, and then practice them, and then it moves on to some of the more advanced stuff later on. Good things and bad things about this, really. For example, when I first started off, I sort of learned the main Braille alphabet, but I learned it kind of by shape. I didn't realise there was a bit more of a logic to it than that until I started doing Braille lessons, and then it was a bit more sort of revealed to me a little bit more about why certain things were a certain ways, and I kind of wish I'd known that in the first place. So this app doesn't really go into much detail about why the Braille symbols are set out that way, and so on and so forth. But in here you've got a dictionary option, so you can see all the different Braille letters here. Like I say, it's all groupings of 6 dots, so A is quite a nice easy one. It goes sort of dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on the Perkins Braille that I showed you earlier, so you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 on the other side of the Braille, the Brailler, sorry. So it shows you the alphabet on there, and this goes into numbers. Oh, there's lots at the moment, unfortunately. But basically, the numbers are the same as the letters up to I, and then you've got J as a 0, but there's just like a number indicator before that, but I won't go into too much detail about that right now, just to give you an idea. You've got a practice option in there as well, so you can use the keyboard as well. So it tells you what you have to do on there. I'm just going to skip through that quickly. So then you have to try and type the letter. And then if you get it right, it goes on to the next one. I'm a little bit out of practice myself, actually. I better start using this again, I think. Alternatively, you can go on to practice and you can choose this option, and then it just gives you the actual letter in Braille, and you have to say what it is in text. So that's a really good way to get started. So that one's called Braille Tutor, and that's on Android. I'm not sure if it's on iOS as well. I'd have to look into that, actually. Hopefully it is. And then as you progress, you unlock different challenges and translation options and all sorts of stuff in there. So that's one well worth looking at. Okay, another good way of learning Braille is this absolutely fantastic website. This is called uebonline.org, and this is really good. I believe it's been developed in Australia, I think. And this is basically a website that takes you through every single stage of Braille, from the really basic beginning stuff to much more advanced stuff, and then it's got whole sections about Braille maths and things like that as well, which is a whole sort of minefield in itself, really. Now, I've completed all the exercises on this before myself, but you can go in here and you can unlock lots of different exercises right from the start. So I'll just quickly show you what they look like. So if I just go back to let me go back to, I'll just review the lessons that I've done previously. So it starts off quite simply. It shows you the letters A to J to start with, and then gives you an idea of which dots you need to press. And then basically, because you're doing it on your computer with this, you are actually using the FDS and JKL keys on your keyboard in the same way as you would use on that Perkins Braille that I showed you earlier. So for example, if I press the F key, that would type an A in Braille. If I press the F and the D key, it would type a B, and so on. So excuse me. So this is a really good website. It's free to register. The only thing you to pay for, if you want to pay for it, is sort of completion certificates at the end, which you don't have to, but you can if you want to. So well worth going through, because it does, like I say, it does take you through right from the start. It explains everything as well. It gives you a bit more detail about why certain things are how they are. Goes through all the punctuation, numbers, and then it's got different exercises in here as well. So it gives you exercises like this, where you've got lots of words and you have to type them in Braille underneath. And then it's also got exercises where you have to, let's go to the next lesson. Wait a second. A little bit later on is, sorry, just 1 second. Just before I go further, what I was talking about for the sort of learning the logic of the alphabet, which I didn't get from that app. So you'll see here the letters A to J are like this in Braille, and the letters K to T are exactly the same, except they've got an extra dot 3 on each one. So I didn't know that when I first started learning Braille, so it would have been useful. So yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm digressing slightly. So yeah, so there's lots of different exercises like this, and then later on, as you go through further into the lessons, you then get sort of reading type exercises on the screen. So I'm just trying to skip across see if I can find one there. Oh yeah, like this one. So it gives you the Braille, and then you have to translate that into English text rather. So yeah, so really good website. Takes a long time to get through everything, because there are, I can't remember how many lessons there are in total now, but there's a lot on there, and it just takes you through absolutely everything. So that to me is probably one of the best ways. If you are stuck at home and you want to learn some Braille and you haven't got somebody on Zoom or something to sort of give you lessons live online, which unfortunately most people probably won't have, this is a really good place to get started. So I'd highly recommend this website. It's very, very good. So yeah, so that's sort of basically just a quick introduction to Braille. If anybody has any questions or comments or further suggestions about anything else that I might have missed that I could show, please get in touch. Just before I go, incidentally, there are some websites as well, like this one, that will let you translate text into Braille, so you can see what it looks like as well. So if I just type my name, for example. And then down here, I'm going to choose, I could have grade 1 Braille or grade 2 Braille, so I'll just try in grade 1 first. And if you just want to see what your name looks like in Braille, or particular words or sentences, then you can do that. So there we go, that's my name in grade 1 Braille. If I just go back a second and show you the difference in grade 2 Braille. So I'm sorry, I didn't actually tell you what the differences were between grade 1 and grade 2 Braille. For grade 1 Braille, you basically got a grouping of these 6 dots for each letter. Grade 2 Braille starts to bring in what I mentioned, contractions, and that is where like whole words might be represented by one of these groups of dots. So this, for example, here is the word and. So on the previous example, I had A, N, D, all as separate Braille symbols. On this one, I have the whole word and in there as one thing. So it sort of shortens things down quite a lot. And then you'll get parts of words like TION and SION and the whole words like people and knowledge and things like that represented by less sort of space on the Braille page, if you like. So it can get a lot more complicated as you go through, but well worth working your way through. So yeah, so my sort of recommendation would be to look at UEB online. And if you wanted to as well, perhaps download an app for your phone and just have a bit of a play and a bit of an explore. It's always worth as well just having a look when you do sort of go into supermarkets and places. Obviously it's a bit tricky at the moment, but if you do buy any tablets or sometimes on food packaging as well, I believe the Co-op food stores is quite good for putting Braille on lots of their food packaging. Just having a quick look at it and sort of getting an idea and sort of familiarising yourself with it a little bit more. So yeah, so that's my quick introduction to Braille. And like I say, if anybody has any comments or questions, please feel free to get in touch and please subscribe and leave a like. That'd be brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Bye.